Here's what I would do if I had to lose 140 pounds again and keep it off for 10 years. I'll tell you first out of the gate, because everyone's going to want to know this. If I was to restart my journey when these products didn't exist, I would for sure be looking into GLP medications to see if I was a fit for them. I would stop cheating myself on the weekend. I did a lot of time being perfect in the week, kind of screwing it up on the weekend, and then living in that yo-yo cycle. I would really work at reducing that through behavior change. Here's what I would do if I had to lose 140 pounds again and keep it off for 10 years. Listen, there's a lot of people that have weight loss, fat loss goals, and now we have some amazing technologies. I've even talked about some GLP medications on this very channel before. I'll tell you first out of the gate, because everyone's going to want to know this. If I was to restart my journey when these products didn't exist, but they magically floated down from 10 years into the future, I would not be one of those people who was like too proud to use them. To me, I would have looked at that as like a logical bridge, just like I have any other supplement, steroid, peptide, anything that makes sense for the individual use. Did this make sense? For me, it would have made a lot of sense. It probably would have helped me avoid a lot of negative body image and food relationship issues. Because I was in such a place, I needed such drastic change, and I didn't know any better. We weren't living in this information world that we live in now. And I was kind of picking things and trying them, and there was not near as many voices to be listening to. I really over-restricted a lot, which did create a lot of results fast. And that's useful because we know in the data that when you start a weight loss journey, it is kind of important to start some momentum pretty fast out of the gate. So usually when someone comes to me, I spend the first 4 weeks working on their habits and looking at their life. I call it discovery phase. What stupid things are they doing that we can replace with smart things that are low-hanging fruit? All right, so it's like if your screen time is 10 hours a day, we can lower that pretty easily. I mean, there's going to be some internal restriction. If you're having multiple cheat meals or free meals a week, just ordering Uber Eats, whatever, that's a really piece of low-hanging fruit. If you're drinking a lot of sodas, that's a piece of low-hanging fruit. So you can see a lot of these really negative habits that are really easy to kind of pick off. I'm going to start there, and I'm going to learn a lot about the person's psychology. And so if I was kind of putting myself through my own system, I would take 4 weeks to figure out what I was doing really stupid for me. I was still drinking a lot of alcohol while trying to lose weight, particularly on the weekends. So that would be one of the things I would cut out right away. I would start walking a little bit more because I think it's very undervalued. I was very focused on lifting weights early on, and everyone's usually different. You'll usually have people who are very comfortable getting in and doing cardio, or people that are very comfortable getting in and lifting weights, and then that type of person usually neglects the other. I think adding a combination of both of them would have helped me a lot. Just get my heart in really good shape and work on some cardio that took me years to learn that I should actually be putting some effort into. Shaping the environment around us, I think, is way more important. I've focused a lot on the psychology portion of growth, right? And I've been obsessed with it. But we also have to remember there's a sociology piece to growth. Think about it. When they put alcoholics into a program, what's one of the first things they're doing that is why rehab is so successful? It's because they're pulling them out of that old environment, people, places, and things. If you're struggling with drinking and you go down to the bar the same as you have every other Friday and tell yourself you're going to have a water, and then everyone comes up to you and it's like, hey, are you having a drink? How's it going? Just a beer, whatever it is, you're way more susceptible to fall into that trap. And most of the people in your life right now, unless you really have good communication, you're telling them, hey, this is super important to me. I want to take my health seriously. I want to look better. Here's why it's important to me. Can you support me? Most people are way too scared to have that conversation. That's sort of another video because that'll be a communication video. But if you're not willing to do that or you have and it's not been received well, that goes to show you that you're sort of playing a character in someone else's story. You're important to them through the behaviors and sort of shared, probably negative habits that you guys share because it allows them to feel safe and comfortable in their bad habits. And so the second you start to try and grow, they're going to try to pluck you like a weed, right? And that feels negative. And then it actually causes a lot of people to stop because they don't have support from their social circle. However, I would build in the map that probably that's going to have to change because Where you are, how you see the world, and how the world sees you are all going to have to need to change. There's an identity change that needs to take place, okay? I would really work on not fueling my body, with shame. So a lot of what I did in the beginning was to double down on the fact that I hated myself. I hated how I looked, I hated how I felt, and I had this very negative bias towards myself. So I was going to use shame and willpower to drive that car forward. And to be honest, I am a proponent of using what you have. If it's the only fuel you have, it's still better to start propelling down the path and figuring out how to replace fuel later. However, I think part of the reason I struggled with that is because I didn't even realize that was happening. Had I had someone explain it to me, I think I would have understood a lot better, like I'm doing now. And so part of the issue of using shame as fuel is that when you start to cultivate most of the results that you can cultivate, all of a sudden you've dropped 50 pounds, maybe you need to lose 70, but that fuel starts to get less efficient on a tank. So it used to carry you 500 kilometers a tank. All of a sudden, when you're down to the last 10 pounds that you need to lose for this vision, you've told yourself that's when I'll be happy. It almost gets you like you're using a whole tank to get 1 kilometer. It's very draining. Versus looking at sort of the gratitude to be able to move my body, the opportunity that the Lord has given me to steward a healthy body and mind and be sober-minded and to be able to afflict positive impact, carry the light wherever I go because I'm vibrant and healthy and I can move my body and I can trust my body. I think that's such an underrated perspective of looking at what it takes to move forward a health journey. And so to break all of that down super simple, if I was to restart my journey of losing 100 plus pounds and keeping it off for a decade, I would for sure be looking into GLP medications to see if I was a fit for them, with someone who had not just nonsense peptide, Instagram, TikTok brain information, someone who actually knows what they're talking about. Second thing I would do is I would stop cheating myself on the weekend. I did a lot of time being perfect in the week, kind of screwing it up on the weekend and then living in that yo-yo cycle. I would really work at reducing that through behavior change. I would work on not shaming myself to move myself forward, hating myself into willpower, into change. I would try changing that gratitude piece and interchanging that in there because I think that could go a long way for someone. I wouldn't worry about trading 6 or 7 days a week or 30 days straight or some of the crazy things I did when I was young. I would look at, can I get 2 to 4 really good strength weight training sessions in per week, maybe a couple cardio sessions on top of that outside or after my weight training? Can I get on the golf course and enjoy my time, start walking a little bit more, and focusing on my sleep and screen time? Those are the things that I would focus on as the big, big levers from my own behavior. Lastly, I would focus on the sociology piece. Who am I hanging around with? Are they speaking into the new future that I have this dream in my mind for, or are they holding me in the place that I am? Where's my support system? When I struggle, which I will, do I have a coach or someone to keep me accountable? And at the very least, do I have friends or people inside of my circle who are going to push me when times get hard so that I don't just emotionally abandon this dream? That dream was put in your heart for a reason, which brings me to my last and final point. Figure out very specifically why you want a transformation. I was just talking to my producer, Sean, before these videos started being recorded. People will present to you that they really want to change their diet because it would make them feel better about themselves because they're not eating in a way that is good for them. And then through a process of coaching, the way that I do it through the rebuild, all of a sudden you find out that there's a father wound with that person and they actually crave their father's love and they hate themselves and they hate that they love them. And so there's this whole negative cascade loop that's causing them to eat for dopamine seeking. They're trying to change their state. What most people are trying to do when they really want to change their body is they're trying to change their state both internally and externally. And it's not to say that getting in better shape and better health isn't going to do that. Again, 2 things can be true. It probably is. You are probably going to be magnitudes of order happier by definition if you got yourself in really good shape to where you looked in the mirror, you were proud. The second thing that's also true is that it's not going to solve all of your life problems. If you have relationship issues, communication issues, issues at work, or really deep wounding in your spirit and your soul that needs to be looked at and you're probably avoiding it, it's not going to solve that. If anything, it's going to amplify it because you just removed a potential solution. Your brain had losing weight as a potential solution, and that's why when you get there, for many people, it feels very empty because it never got to the roots of underneath the reasons why you were overweight in the first place. And so I think this will give you a really good idea of how to look at a journey from a bird's eye view, focus on the big, boring, simple, consistent levers that no one wants to talk about anymore, and then looking at how your identity shapes your current environment and your current outcomes. I would love you to subscribe, share this video if it helped anyone and or yourself, and we'll keep these coming. Thanks for being here.